My coming out story begins with a movie called Friends with Benefits. It's basically just a fun excuse to watch beautiful people falling in love. For those of you who don't remember, it starred Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. Justin, having left his days of NSYNC and full denim outfits behind, had become an acclaimed singer and performer and burgeoning actor in his own right. He was every girl's dream. But as the movie progressed, I found myself focusing less on Justin and more on another former teen heartthrob, Mila Kunis. It took me a little while to figure out what the butterflies in my stomach were. I didn't want to be Mila Kunis, and I didn't just admire her for her infectious laugh or her superb comedic timing. I also realized that this was not the first time that I'd felt this way about a girl. By that time, I was in high school and had the words to describe what I suspected was happening to me. But I was petrified to think that these words could apply to me, let alone say them out loud. For some people, being gay isn't that big of a deal, but for me, it was devastating. I didn't know any gay people growing up. The neighborhood that I grew up in Brooklyn is mostly an immigrant community, Chinese and Russian and Italian families. They were my whole world. And in this world, there were very high expectations for the first generation of Americans to achieve, to succeed, and to preserve the values of our culture. I was a very shy and bookish and obedient little girl. All signs that I would be following the path that my parents expected me to take. Work hard, get a good job, buy a white dress, and start a family. So when I started to realize that I could be gay, I panicked. This was not the person that I thought I was. And it was definitely not the person that everybody else thought I was. I tried ignoring the secret, but it wouldn't go away. After track practice, after finishing my homework and doing SAT prep, I would sit alone at night and try to figure out what I was going to do about it. So like any good future MBA candidate, I did my research and tried to find a logic-driven solution. I started a pros-cons list, something akin to what we might call a cost-benefit analysis today. I negotiated with myself, tallying up the number of uncomfortable conversations I would need to have. Would it be worth being the subject of hushed whispers at family gatherings? How many uncomfortable family dinners would I need to sit through before we would settle into a comfortable avoidance? How many people would RSVP yes to my wedding? How many people could I bear to know would not be coming? I wanted to make my parents proud. And for the most part, I wanted a lot of the same things that they wanted for me. But I knew that if I didn't do those things with a man, I would have to do them without my family. Like a lot of other millennials at that time, I also watched a lot of YouTube. It was an escape for me, but it was also a really great research tool where I could study gay culture. I watched a lot of YouTube videos from one channel in particular. Looking back now, it's very aptly named. It was Lesbian Answers. And because I was a deeply closeted person at the time, I would watch these videos in an incognito browser, late at night, with my headphones in. And I always made sure to have my screen facing away from my bedroom door, because God forbid somebody walk in on me watching a Q&A video. So you can only imagine my horror when I received a text from my best friend Charlie one night after a sleepover. Krista, are you a lesbian? I felt like my heart had stopped when I got that text. I raced through all the things I had done that day and realized that I must have left a browser up as I was watching YouTube on his laptop. I'd made such a careless mistake for a secret that I had kept hidden for so long. I realized I had a choice to make. It was one of those fork in the road moments. I could lie and tell him, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Or I could own up to it. I couldn't bear to lie, not to my best friend. So I texted him back. Yes, but I have a plan. And I told him, if I couldn't keep this a secret, then my analysis told me that I would have to be honest. I would tell my future partners that there was something different about me, that I felt this attraction towards women. But I wasn't going to let it define me. I wasn't going to let it control me. I was not going to act on it. We met up at our favorite ramen restaurant the next day. And when we sat down at the counter, Charlie said something that I did not expect him to say. I came up to my parents last night after our conversation. I've wanted to for so long, but I didn't have the courage until we talked. And now I have the courage to tell you this too. I don't want you to have to wake up in 20 years feeling like you lived a lie. I don't want you to wake up in 20 years having denied yourself. And I don't want to wake up in 20 years and potentially not have you in my life. He was referring to the news stories that had been coming out about teenagers and preteens who had committed suicide because they had been outed or had been bullied because they were gay. These were people like me who had tried to keep their secret hidden. And what Charlie said made me think about how sad it was that these kids would never get the chance to go to college, that they would never be able to start families, that they would never know what it felt like to love themselves. And in that moment, I realized that my model was totally wrong. I forgot to consider my opportunity costs. What I was turning my back on if I didn't come out. What my world could look like if I chose to step out of line. If I chose to go beyond my parents' expectations. Charlie made me a promise that we would both be brave, that we would give ourselves a chance to feel unburdened by the weight of this secret. Later that day, I tried to make good on that promise. My mom was reading the newspaper when I came home. And when she asked me how Charlie was doing, I seized the opportunity to test the waters. I told her, Charlie just came out. He's gay. She looked up from her newspaper at me and scoffed. That's not a decision you make at this age. I could feel the heat rise to my face. I was so angry. She was dismissing Charlie, and she was dismissing me. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the emotions of the moment or the momentum from earlier that day, but I told her what was on my mind. Nobody chooses to be gay. Nobody chooses to be discriminated against. Nobody chooses to be bullied for being different. This is not a choice. This is who we are. I waited for her reaction for what felt like forever. She looked at me again, laughed, and didn't say another word. I couldn't do anything else but run to my bedroom and cry. Over the next few years, I couldn't confront the topic again, but I went away to college, which gave me the chance to start to learn what it could feel like to be an out gay person. And I did it all with the love and support of my friends. Eventually, I got the courage to try to bring it up again. And I wish I could tell you that there was a neat ending to this coming out story with my family. But I'll be honest, we're still working through it. And it's been hard. But in the process, I've learned that I will not compromise who I am for the expectations of others. I need to listen to my own voice. I can still have the things I wanted as a little girl. Work hard, get a job I love, buy a white dress, start a family. It'll look a little bit different for me, but if it's anything like coming out has been, it can only be even better than I could have imagined for myself. And just as I'm on my own journey and learning to chart my own path, so are my parents. And they're on their own coming out journeys, and I can only be patient. My hope is that at the end of those journeys, we can see each other a little bit more clearly. And we'll look back. We'll be proud of how far we've come.